Are we gonna go get the chickies' eggs?
How get them and then get them? I cannot bang.
Good job. Good job.
Me.
Our family and neighbors dropped off pumpkins from Halloween, which we are smashing and giving to the chickens. I also threw in the smaller of the deer carcasses. That's Jake's, and they've been pecking away at that for a few days now. Pretty much removed most of the tallow off it. Get in there, ladies. Sorry, town ordinances don't allow us to free range you. These are the venison tallow scraps that I saved from butchering. Grinding them down makes them easier to work with. After filling my crock pot, I generously coat the surface of the tallow with salt. And then I add water. I added enough water to bring the level just to the top of the pot. Set the crock pot at low and let it sit. You go like this? Can you do that with that one? High five. My dad built this air hose attachment to blow out our water hoses at the end of the season. Even with wrenches, I couldn't get this nozzle off the hose. It made for a pretty neat pressure washer though. This hose had some ice buildup inside of it, and I nearly blew my hand off with the back pressure when I disconnected the valve. Alright, this has been going for 2.5 hours, and I've made a discovery. It's almost overflowing. I probably could have done with less water that I added to it at the beginning. I just didn't want anything to burn in there. This is a good sign though. That's icing looking stuff is actually rendered tallow. It actually smells pretty good. It smells like ground beef. So I gotta figure out what I want to do with this. I'm afraid it might overflow. I don't know. I might take a turkey baster and suck some of this out of there and put it in a different container and add it back in later on. I think that's what I'll do. I don't know how well that shows up, but it's actually solidifying in this bowl and actually in the top of the baster up here as well. As I continue to render this down, the water that is mixed in with the fat will evaporate, leaving behind pure venison tallow fat. Watching this footage back in post-production, I realized that I've spent 99% of this year in sweatpants. Alright, it has been another hour and a half since I skimmed off the last bunch. Wow, this actually smells really good. It's a good idea to come in here and strain or spoon it around, move it around so everything can render down evenly. You can see a lot of the little gristly bits. Looks like ground hamburger. Whereas here's a big chunk of tallow that's solidified already. All of this stuff will get strained out, so we're left with just pure white tallow. This is looking pretty good though. I'm thinking we can start straining this pretty soon. Alright, so I've decided I am going to try and strain some of these gristly bits out of here just to reduce the overall height of the fluid inside the crock pot here so I can add in what I took out earlier. All these little gristly bits are going to be given to the chickens, so they will not be wasted. Alright, that's probably brought the level down enough. Get this tallow that's hardening back in there. I can't get over how good this smells. I wasn't expecting that. Sorry, battery died there. Had to swap it out quick. As I was saying, I am going to mix in the tallow that I pulled out with the baster earlier. This is actually a little sneak preview of how we're going to clarify this in the end. All of this I put in the fridge and it solidified. And toward the bottom here, there wasn't much in here, but that's fluid, that's liquid, that's basically water, that's the imperfections that sink to the bottom as the top solidifies. So we'll strain all this out, not freeze it, but put it in the refrigerator and all the imperfections will sink to the bottom. So for now I'm going to cut this out into little cubes, put it back in here to melt down so it's all together. See, there's your fluid. Actually, I'll drain this out into what's going to the chickens. There we go. And then this just chips out. Perfect. Try not to splatter. Awesome. So there we go. I'll probably let this sit for another hour to melt these chunks I just threw back in there, and then we'll start the straining process and put it in the refrigerator overnight, finish it up tomorrow. This has been sitting now for 4 hours, so another hour, maybe 5 hours total to render it down. And as I was saying, I can't get over how good it smells. Actually, I wasn't expecting that. So we'll let this sit for a little bit more. Hey ladies, got another treat for you. Some nice warm tallow gristles. Or venison gristles, I should say. Throw it on top of your carcass there. Nice and warm for you. Warm your insides before another cool night. Good stuff. Enjoy. This has been rendering for 5 hours now. You can see the liquid tallow has risen to the surface, and all of the gristly meat bits have sunk to the bottom. There's some hairs and stuff yet from the deer on here that we're gonna strain out now. So what I'm gonna do, I've got this slotted spoon. I'm going to take all of this stuff and put it inside this little it's like a coffee filter type strainer, inside of another strainer, inside of a bowl, so that we can separate the tallow from all the gristle. Alright, I've got the majority of the gristle out inside of the filter and strainer here. I'm just going to try and press out as much of the liquid tallow as I can. Squeeze this good. Oh yeah, look at all that. Oh man, that is hot. Alright, I'm going to take this out to the chickens, and then I'll be back to finish this up. Alright, now that I've extracted most of the gristly bits and given those to the chickens, I'm going to use this ladle to start pulling this liquid tallow through the strainer, through the sifter, and into these plastic containers. The reason I'm using plastic is because they are malleable and will allow me to extract that brick of tallow that will solidify in the fridge overnight, as the liquid will settle below it with the imperfections in it. That's the reason that we put the salt in this, is it sucks all those imperfections out of the tallow into the water. So having this plastic container will just make it easier to extract that solidified tallow later on. Well, that turned out to be rather messy, but I've got 2 bowls of rendered tallow here. I have to finish straining this one. This one that I'm working on right now was the very bottom of the crock pot, so there was a lot of imperfections in this one, which is why it's a little darker in color than this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these in the fridge overnight, let them solidify. I'll separate the imperfections in the morning, and then I'm going to heat it all up again, put it back in the fridge, let it solidify, and do it one more time and filter out all the imperfections. And we should be left with a pretty clean brick of venison tallow that I can utilize for different things. Alright, so this is sat in the fridge overnight. You can see there's some juices pooling down here. Oh, there we go. That's why you want a flexible container. Now this was the one that I took the bottommost portion out, so there was a lot of gristle and imperfections down at the bottom, so this one's going to be dirtier than the other one. Let's get this, maybe drain some of this out first. So that's all the water that we mixed in, and the salt pulled the imperfections into that water. So then what we're left with here, this is a block of venison tallow. This underside here still has some imperfections in it, but we're gonna heat it up and render it down with the other bowl. And we'll do one more purification process on this tallow. So, actually I'm going to rinse this off, I think. And then I'm just going to throw this back into here. I washed this last night, so it's clean again. And then this is the first one that had the uppermost portion, so in theory this one should be a little bit cleaner than that last one. Definitely a lot more tallow in this brick. That's pretty cool. I'm going to rinse this one off too and throw that in there and melt them down together. Alright, I'm going to take this back out to the garage to render it down a second time, and we'll pick it up from there. It's just after 6 p.m. This stuff has been rendering back down a lot longer than I anticipated, but I had a lot going on today. So I'm going to try something a little different tonight, using the same plastic bowl as the other night. But I've got this like grease splatter screen that I'm going to put over the top, then a canning funnel with a actual coffee filter that I'm going to stick inside of it, and this will keep this up and out of the inside of this bowl so I don't have to sit here and hold it as I ladle everything out. So we'll go through the process of ladling this out again and then we'll put it back in the fridge overnight. Alright, so that's not straining it as quickly as I was hoping it would. This is going to take way too long. Well, I wonder what would happen if I just removed this filter. The screen might catch enough of it actually. I'm not going to be rendering this down for human consumption anyway, so it's not really a huge deal. I just wanted to see how clean I could get it. I'll probably end up using this mostly for suet for the chickens and the wild birds. I'll mix some seed in with it and make little blocks to give to them. So I'm going to throw this out, and we'll just ladle this out right on top of the screen, I guess. Sarah said she wasn't a big fan of the smell of this rendered tallow, but I think it smells delicious. Alright, this is the rendered down tallow. You can see it's dark at the bottom where the imperfections have already started settling. I'm going to throw this back in the fridge overnight, and tomorrow we'll have a nice solid block of Venison Tallow. The remaining imperfections can be scraped off with a sharp knife. Alright, so this is what we're left with. I had to shave off the sides to get it to fit into this container. This is the tallow that we saved off of 4 deer this season. I'm going to keep it in the fridge until I'm ready to use it. There's multiple uses for it. You could make homemade soaps, candle bases. You can actually rub this on your hunting boots and it acts as a waterproofing grease almost on it. You can make suet out of it, which is what I'm actually going to do. I'm probably going to make suet both for the wild birds and for the chickens, so I'll make videos on that in the future. But yeah, this is the first time I've ever done this. First time I've ever saved any tallow off of our deer. It was a pretty fun process. It wasn't too difficult. I think I'll continue doing this so we can utilize more of our deer this way. Be a little bit less wasteful, a little more respectful to our deer. So pretty cool. Hope you enjoyed.